Hello, welcome to the Lunch Hour Podcast. This is the second time we're doing this intro, but whatever.
We have caramel here today, pesto, me, and strawberry. Sadly, Potato could not join us today, and nor can B be in our audience. So hopefully, 2 squared is enough for you guys. But our topic today is bullying, right?
Yes. I do want to mention that Caramel, Pesto, and I all went to magnet middle schools, and so I guess we can talk about like the differences.
Yeah, I think that has a big part to do with a lot of these stories concerning like bullying. To get into that, like I did go to I guess like a certain like feeder school. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's basically anybody that didn't get into a magnet or didn't apply for a magnet or didn't get into like the special application programs were essentially just like fed and funneled into this school along with another one. Since my school was predominantly like minority, and then most of them, if not all, the students were of low income, and then we did have a sort of issue with low equity rates, like achievement gaps especially were prevalent in our school. Low budgets kind of like accounted for like low school like academic inventory, so we didn't have a lot of good programs or like up-to-date school materials, and then there was like a high turnaround rate for teachers, so teachers usually stayed about a year or two and then would like leave and go to better schools. So that kind of prefaces like the sort of middle school I went to. So if I don't know if you guys can like talk about your school, like being a magnet and all.
So my middle school was for technology, like computer programming and stuff like that. And so we had a lot of new technology and software. I think we had like new computers when I started, MacBooks and all of that good stuff. But I, like every middle schooler has probably experienced bullying, but I don't think it's been to the degree that Potato and Rutabaga have.
Yeah.
Also, just the school environment seems to be a bit different.
Yeah.
We had a lot of clubs and like extracurriculars, and our counselor, he was ranked number 1 that year in the county, I believe, and he helped a lot of students. Like he had a really good relationship with everyone. And the teachers were okay. They were fine. They weren't extraordinary, but they weren't like the worst. They were just fine.
Our school overall was like, it was okay. I mean, despite it being a magnet school, it was okay. We had a really good principal. Like he was actually like,
oh my god, he was amazing.
he was really good. He was one of those principals that was very involved in their school. Like everything that went on, he was a part of it. Like you would see him around in the school. Like he wasn't like absent. Like you would see the guy like walking up and down the halls and stuff. The teachers, it ranged. It kind of ranged. We had really bad teachers and like really good teachers, I guess. Personally, my counselor was trash. I'm just gonna say that. Like
I think I only met with my counselor like once.
Okay, so in our school we had like 3 admins. We had a principal, we had 2 vice principals. And so when a troubled child would have like an altercation or something with like a nerdier kid, they would weirdly take the side of the troubled child.
No.
And I'm like, what? They'll give them both like detention, and it's like it wasn't even the other kid's fault.
Like 100%, it's like valid in the sense that like when we further discuss bullying, it's not necessarily like kid on kid bullying, but also in schools, especially public schools, or even like I don't know, like higher ranked schools like yours. I'm sure you'll see more bullying where it's like administration on the kid or something, where it's like top down.
It's like, I mean, it's that too, but it's also like the normal kids, like the kids that are normally in trouble, and they'll drag some like quiet kid who like are like too anxious to defend themselves. They'll just give the other kid like a sentence exactly the same as them. They'll get a regular detention, but because they're too shy to like speak up that they had nothing to do with it, they'll end up getting in trouble. And I'm like, that's just not right. And like the only way to get out of that situation is if you like bring your parents in and they like yell at admin.
Exactly. That's
like,
what parents do.
Exactly, yeah.
You're like a nervous shy child.
Yeah. I mean, especially for me, because I know like my parents were like, yeah, we're not going to do that for you in middle school. So it was kind of hard for me to like get out of certain situations when it wasn't my fault. Because like when I got detention, it was devastating. Because it wasn't even regular detention. It was lunch detention. So I had to sit in the main office with my lunch.
Oh my god.
And like a bunch of my teachers were like shocked. They were like, what the hell did you do? I've never, like, you are not a bad kid. What are you here for? And so that was just like really not it. And then on top of that, I had rumors spread about me after that situation because of like what happened. So people were calling me names and stuff after that, so it wasn't great. And then also I feel like in general in our schools they tend to hide stuff. So like if something like really really bad happened, like where the police were involved, they try to make sure that that stuff doesn't get out and about in the public. For us, we had like a couple teachers who are like long-term residents, so if they're like bad, they can't like get rid of them, even though other teachers and parents and students are complaining about them. So like we had one in particular, our engineering teacher, who was like infamous for like his teaching methods.
Yeah, he was a good teacher, just an interesting approach.
Yeah, very interesting. And I got detention because of his class and because of the whole troubled kid blaming other people for what they were doing. Yeah. And he also stepped out of the room. So he was just kind of like, whatever, I'll just take whoever wants to say what happened and just go with that. And I'm like, okay. And he was also the type of teacher who was not going to deal with the issue, and he'll just give it to like the counselors and administration to deal with it. So.
Right. So from what I can remember of middle school, which isn't too much, I didn't really get in trouble. Like, I was just that quiet kid out of the way, getting straight A's and shit. But, you know, there were just a couple of times I, like, almost got into fights just because, like, as Pesto was saying, a troubled kid would come over and either start picking on me and my friends. And I wasn't usually the type of kid to, like, sit back and be passive about it.
Crazy.
I almost fought 2 kids on a bus back in 6th grade. Because they kept, like, mocking me for some shit I had no control over. But I digress. I feel like I was sort of an unusual case in the fact where I wasn't really bullied, or at least I don't really know that I was bullied.
Were you always tall?
Yeah, I was always tall, but it wasn't for that. There were some kids that were taller than me, especially this one kid got into a fight with this other kid. One day at lunch, I was, like, pulling on hair or something. They get into this fight. He's like 6'4" at the time or something, and he's a big dude. Like, he could be a defensive tackle on a football team, for real, for real. Like, this dude swings, ducks. The entire lunchroom is losing it. They're all watching.
Yeah.
Goes at this dude's gut, and they had to get like both security guards to break him up, and everybody's just cheering for him to keep going. It was the funniest shit I ever did see back in middle school.
Caramel's story about the bus kind of reminds me of my experience with the bus. So, when I was in 6th grade, there was this kid, and he was he might have been disabled, but I did not understand why people did not like him, like, at all. I was like, that's so mean. Like he's like a little kid. Like, why are you guys being so mean? And just that one time that I kind of defended him, he kind of like got attached.
Oh no.
It started off with like him just saying, oh, I like you and stuff like that, and I was like, okay. And then it just became like kind of his obsession.
Oh no.
And like I didn't know what to do, because like I still felt bad about him, but like people would bully him about it and all of that stuff. But anywho, he was in that bus, and he was really short. And then there was this kid who was, I believe he was an 8th grader while we were 6th graders, and he was the bus bully. I remember one day, I guess he saw me interacting with the boy, and the boy would get bullied a lot on the bus, like a lot. I also became kind of a target.
That sucks.
Yeah, the kid would grab my backpack and take things out and pretend to throw it out of the bus. And like I've always been shy. I've always like been afraid of like standing up to people if it's about me. If it's about other people,
Same.
that's a different story.
You see, it's at that point where you pretend to pick him up and throw him out the window.
He was a big guy, and I was a small 6th grader. And the bus driver did absolutely nothing. The same
their job
person.
to get involved. It's their job to drive the bus.
They tend to
I know, but some bus drivers stop the bus and like say, "Yo, stop." But like others, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had different experiences with different bus drivers. This is the same kid who threw a at my hair, and I didn't know what it was. I literally did not know what it was. And I was like, why is this so wet? Did you put it in your mouth? And like, there were people laughing. And it was just so gross. And to this day, I'm wondering, did he use it? Or did he like just lick it? Because it was
There's
in my
absolutely
hair.
no way he fucks.
No, it's inside is usually like wet, so that's probably why he probably like.
Yeah, it's usually filled with some sort of lubricant. Not that I know from experience, haha. Hey, adds to marriage.
It was just not a good time.
Oh no, I actually do have bus stories too. Crap. So the first day of school of 8th grade, you walk in and I see and doing like chaotic shenanigans on the first day, and I'm like, who the fuck? So then I go to the back with, because you know, gang, we've been homeroom gang since 6th grade, and I'm like, who the fuck? Who is this? And she's just like, I don't know, I think he's a new kid. And I'm like, okay, great. And so they both come over to us because like Nick's like introducing him to people or whatever. I don't know, I guess they became friends instantly. It must be that chaotic energy, like I being like, I don't know. And then I'm like, okay, cool, great. So then I don't know, then he just starts like harassing me. Like after the first maybe 2-3 weeks of school, he just starts like bothering me for no reason. And then everybody started like shipping me and him, and I'm like,
oh my
hello?
God.
Like it's already bad enough that I'm getting like harassed by him, because that's kind of what it was. It was like the high key tormenting me, like taking my stuff, putting them like in other places, like calling me names, this and that, and blah blah blah. Like, oh my God. So bruh, he would like push me out of the seat like on the bus while the bus was driving.
Damn.
Like, you can't sit here, get out of here. And then
the old Rosa Parks.
like dead but ironically, bro, I didn't know what to do, so I had to just like scramble my shit together and like find somewhere else to sit before the bus driver catches me standing up. And it would go on for like maybe a couple of days. But yeah, like he would just annoy me. And then after we graduated and like after we went our separate ways in high school, at the end or at the summer of freshman year, this man has the audacity to slide into my DMs on Instagram. It was like, oh yeah, hey, by the way, I used to like you. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh my God.
I hate when people do that.
Oh my God, that's funny as hell.
That is just bruh. That's not how you try to get
You
something.
know how they say that like young boys will like tease the person they like?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
As a guy, I can absolutely 112% confirm that.
No. Okay, but there's a difference between teasing and like tormenting. I was being tormented.
No.
And it was even worse because people actually shipped us, so that was worse.
No, that's like included too. Like
my
whatever you can to mess with them, like even if it's
What?
just a little bit, because like it counts as action.
No.
I was gonna say like, okay, I know where like you're coming from, but I guess it's like the execution
Yeah.
that like matters, because okay, I'm gonna throw potato under the bus right here.
No.
We all know that like he teased me and made fun of me a lot, not in like a malicious way,
Yeah.
but like a childish kind of way.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've had a similar experience to Pesto where this guy, okay, he was considered like a popular kid. Like he had the athletic stuff, like the looks, the people, the everything, okay?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is this dude was the whole package.
Yeah, he was the whole package. And for some strange and bizarre reason, mind you, I didn't even like talk to him
Oh,
much.
no.
We were just in the same classes together.
Oh no, I can
They
see
do be
the
those
outcomes.
guys.
But like I don't know. He was really smart though. Like he wasn't he looked like a jock, but he was very very smart. So like one day he just came up to me and like confessed, right?
Oh.
But I was like so confused because the entire time that we would have interactions, he was such a freaking bully. Like he would make fun of me and like call me names. Since we were in the same math class together and it was like a higher level one, so there were like 8th graders in the class as well. This 8th grade dude, which is not the same person that I'm talking about, used to be a little inappropriate. Let's just say that. And there were a couple times where that guy who confessed would join in. And like during class, I couldn't do anything. Like they would literally sit behind me. And it was a complete distraction. I told my teacher at the time, and he didn't do anything. But since I had a really good relationship with my counselor, when I told him about it and what was going on, I don't know what he did, but I never saw the kid again. And then,
Straight up deleted him.
but then that guy, after like consistently me not saying anything, nothing happened, and he turned from being a bully to just being like kind of like an acquaintance. I don't know, it was just
like
so
a person passing in the
weird.
hall.
Yeah, it was a weird experience. But yeah, that's my little tidbit on people being weird.
No, I don't like guys who do that. Like, you're gonna do all that shit and then have the audacity. Oh yeah, by the way, I like have a crush on you. Like, I'm gonna like laugh at you and then I'll be like, no.
If it makes viewers feel better, I mean, once you go to college and all that, hopefully, depending on the school, of course, I can't really generalize the whole population, but it doesn't get as childish and dumb as that. I feel like people literally in college learn to grow up and manage their feelings in a healthy way. They don't rely on movies to tell them how, like, relationships are supposed to work anymore. It's like people see movies and then they think, like, they somehow get into the idea that acting like a bully is supposed to make people, like you or whatever because you're the bad boy or whatever. And I'm just like, do you understand in real life how that works, especially with someone who has like social anxiety or like the slight notions of like mental illnesses? Do you know how like hurtful that is?
Yeah.
So like you know, this notion that you have that it's cute to be a bully is like, no, you know, the minute you slightly bully or make a rude comment to someone that has like social anxiety, they like cut you out of their lives because they can't handle the process of like,
there are two populations of people that actually think bullies are cute. One, prison inmates.
Oh goodness.
Satan.
You're right. I guess I have some middle school stories that I could share like that. I guess growing up, I wasn't like, it's not like kids nowadays where it's like super internet based, you know, a lot of like social media and how we gain information. But I don't think I ever experienced like cyberbullying.
Yeah, okay, boomer.
Yeah.
Has anybody else or
back then? I think it was only like the popular kids that would trash talk each other like online or in their own little group chats or whatever. But I can't say personally I've experienced. I mean, if they were talking trash about me, I would never know. So
when I think of cyberbullying, I usually think about verbal stuff, like
like a bunch of trolling.
Yeah. But if we like broaden that meaning and include the use of non-consensual pictures,
yes,
I mean, yeah, especially in middle school, that happened.
Okay, I guess everybody's had a similar experience. But I've met a few people. I was friends with a few people that in middle school, especially, I guess, you know, is the first time you've ever heard like cases of maybe sexting or something.
What?
your friends like take a picture of them falling
or maybe it's just my middle school. I know there was one specific case with this girl. She was really nice and really quiet. But it was just such a shame because I think this is when Snapchat first started coming out or started being like the big thing that it was, and she might have snapped this guy like a nude of herself.
Disclaimer. don't send nudes over Snapchat if you're underage. That can count as child pornography.
Very good point, everybody. Sorry, Caramel, but like sometimes, especially middle school guys, just their brains are too tiny, and they don't comprehend
No.
sometimes the actions of what they're doing, or even if they do.
Wait.
Oh, no.
Apologize to me and then say that middle school guys are small brain. Are you saying that I have small brain?
I am saying that at one point, I'm assuming that you might have had a small brain.
No.
Oh, you're definitely right.
Okay.
Like, I'm not even gonna try and lie about that.
The sad thing is, I remember this girl, I think, snapped this guy like a nude or something, and I felt so bad for her. It might have even been sixth grade. It's very scandalous, and I mean, obviously not the best choice, especially in day and age now where, you know, it's so easy to share stuff. But especially back then, I felt so bad for her because I think the guy that she sent it to literally circulated it with everyone.
Oh,
So, like, everybody saw the picture. And I just, like, I can't express how deeply, like, I feel for her. Because, you know, it must be such an embarrassing thing to happen to you. And then not only that, but they would always, like, bring it up when they saw her. Or, like, point at her. Or, like, you know when you're walking by and people whisper while they're, like, looking at you or whatever?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of, like, scene. So that would happen to her a lot. And it just continued until, like, 8th grade. Like, literally the day we graduated. And I just felt really bad for her. Because I'm like, you don't really deserve this. I mean, I understand it was, in retrospect, a dumb decision to make, but you don't deserve any of this bullying. And then it got to the point where she did, you know, start a lot of self-harm because of that. That's like the most prevalent bullying I saw. I think the other bullying that I might have witnessed was more just like I witnessed like years afterwards, because I feel like when you're in the situation you don't notice it. Like, you maybe see that they're being mean, but it isn't until, like, a few years afterward where you think about it or you meet with the person again, and you're like, you know, honestly, you were being bullied. Like, you were essentially being, like, ostracized in, not, like, in such a direct manner, but in an indirect way that kind of really messed up with your psyche and the way you view yourself. It's kind of what happened with Potato, that, like, you don't see it when it's like happening. It's only years later that you kind of think about it and you reflect and you talk about it with them, and then you're like, you know what, actually that was a messed up thing to do, and that probably explains like a lot of effects that we may have like upon ourselves now that we're 5 years older or whatever. So I think that
stays with you.
It does. It stays with you in a way that's not necessarily like,
I was gonna say, like, it affects your future relationships with other people.
exactly, like,
that's what I've gotten from Potato.
100%. Like, it's not their fault. It's just that they feel like I can also express in a way, when someone is very like hesitant to talk about their lives or to be super open, it's not because they necessarily want to be open. It's more that there's this deeper fear. Here's the thing for me, right? I want to be open. I want to tell people about my life, or like about like the things I think of or the things I feel. It's just that, and I psych myself up. Like, I literally have to build myself up to like open myself up to someone. And then when the moment comes, it's a certain flashback to like maybe times people have like sort of backstabbed you, or I don't know, somehow gone against like your emotions or the way you feel. And then once you are about to open up to someone, it's just a sudden like nope. So then you kind of retreat, and then that's, you know, where you're kind of stuck. You're just kind of stuck, you know, wanting to tell someone, but then the moment you do, your brain is just like, no, don't. And then if you do, your brain's also like, why did you do that? Like, you're plotting against yourself.
Yeah.
So I think, like, especially in the situations that like Potato and I were in with the school, it's not necessarily, at least for me, I didn't really have a lot of direct bullying per se, but it's the sort of environment in which I was bred in, like, in that sort of middle school environment that was particularly toxic, that it kind of messes with how maybe you trust like other people, how you view other people, or how you're able to express. Like, I know, I'm sure Potato and I just have like a really hard time expressing, and it's something that like you just have to work on, in being able to like tell people how you feel, because, you know, when you're in that sort of environment. It's just like a constant, like, you can't say anything because, you know, if not, you just get it worse.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, how does bullying work now? Like, with, like, all these like, new technologies.
Right. I feel like it's even harder to deal with it.
Is it different?
That's a good question. Let's ask the panel.
Leave comments down below if you have any thoughts on that.
And also, like, comment, and subscribe. Did you know that only 1.1% of our viewers are not subscribed? Yeah, you should. And you can always change your mind later.
It's not that I'm necessarily intrigued, like, out of a sort of sadistic manner about bullying. I'm just interested in, like, it wasn't until, like, you know, high school, and then I started talking to, like, you guys, that I realized that, first of all, that my middle school wasn't normal. Second of all,
that's so funny though, because your middle school is actually pretty infamous. Like, everybody knows, like, wild stuff happens there.
There's a lot of stories about teachers getting fired for things. And
what kind of things? Elaborate.
I don't know if it's for this podcast, but I'm just saying there's a lot of reasons why we have such a high turnaround rate, which is, like, literally because of the, you know, infamous things that teachers have done in that school, and because, you know, teachers don't want to really be attributed to that.
Hasn't some of them gone to jail as well?
Yes, yeah. We've had a couple of those. We've had
what, for extracurriculars?
Yes.
I feel like it would have saved a lot of travesty, at least, for a school, if they invested more in just after-school programs or things further than just your average academic programs.
Definitely. Also, having good counselors and enough counselors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that. I literally think it was only one counselor for, like, the entire grade or something. So that's why we never met with our counselor. We only met with them if, like, they called you in, or, like, there was, like, some sort of extenuating circumstance they had to talk to you about.
Did you guys ever intervene when someone else was being bullied?
I was volunteering for, like, a girls' summer camp thing, and there was this girl. She had, like, a really high-pitched voice, and she was, like, petite. Kids were bullying her on the bus, like, when she would come to the camp and, like, leave. And so I was like, damn, I'm gonna take it upon myself to, like, get this fixed out. I, like, took her to, like, the camp organizers, and I was like, listen, bruh, like, she's going through, like, the worst, bruh. She does not deserve this. And yeah, they fixed the issue, so that was good.
For me, I only did this once, and like I said, I'm not confrontational, especially when it involves groups of people. I had a friend, and we were in gym class. We were playing basketball together against, like, this other group of girls, and she didn't hold back, because, you know, go girl, don't hold back.
Love to hear it.
And we ended up winning, but after that, one of the girls kind of threw the ball at my friend and made her cry because they apparently said stuff. And I obviously was not going to stand for that. So I tried comforting her. I targeted the person who had, like, hurt her in particular. And then after that, I guess, like, one of the other girls had heard. And then they all came out. Yeah. And they were, like, saying, why are you, like saying this about blah, 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 blah. And it was like, well, you know, they did that to my friend. I don't think that's, like, good. Yada, yada, yada. I also told them I don't want to get involved with, like, any drama. But I'm also not gonna just, like, not say anything. So, like, if you can excuse me, I'm gonna get going. So I went into the locker room, and they literally were surrounding the locker, like, my locker.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't change. Like, I literally couldn't change. What I ended up doing was to my counselors, because I didn't know what to do. Like, having a bunch of people confront you and do that, it was very scary and intimidating, especially for someone who's, like, shy and stuff like me. I do want to talk about the differences in bullying between, like, the boys and the girls. From what Potato tells me, it's not passive. Like, it's very head-on and straightforward.
It's very confrontational.
From what I see, yeah.
Like, if you get bullied by a guy, you will absolutely know about it. It's none of this behind your back type shit unless they're a coward. But they will say shit to your face. They will get up in your face. They will let you know what's
throw
up.
hands. They will throw hands.
It's just, I've always wondered, after that happens, right? And you see each other again, is it like everything's back to normal, or are there like grudges still?
Well, I mean, in my experience, like in my limited experience, I can hold grudges, but usually if there's beef and we like hash it out or whatever, then that's it. That's whatever, it's done. But like, if we do not talk or if we do not see each other like one-on-one to sort things out, there will absolutely be a grudge.
See, like with girls, it's very passive, and you don't even have to talk to a girl once or interact with a girl for there to be issues. I don't recall ever there being a time where one of the popular girls ever like made me feel uncomfortable directly or said anything to me directly prior to my actual encounters with them. But for some reason, I always felt like a little apprehensive towards them, and I don't know why. Vega, Pesto, do you have like similar feelings?
Yeah, I think it depends. I think for like you and me, you know how we have a lot of guy friends, right? People just assume that like you're being flirtatious. Like they make a battle of everything, and it's just like you can't be friends without a guy without it being like troublesome later on. It's what they assume.
Oh snap! B's here.
Hello?
Listen.
I'm here.
Yeah.
What's poppin'? But like, also girls tend to like flock. Like they tend to like congregate into like little groups, and the groups fight each other. They have wars, like wars, and like the popular girls hate tomboys. And then on top of that, I'm Muslim, so like visibly Muslim. So they shun me because I don't look like them. Like I cover my hair, so yeah. So they already kicked me out. So they didn't want me in their group. So the guys were kind of like, okay, well, whatever. She likes anime and like.
You know the moment when you like glow up or whatever, when you know when you hit that phase when you finally like feel good about yourself or whatever.
I'm still waiting for that. I don't know.
Alright. I see it F from the chat. But like my thing is that the equivalent of that is like you grow up a nerdy kid, right? And then you have a quote unquote like glow up. They like inherently judge you for that because they're like, you know, you're not necessarily like a girl enough for them to hang out with, if that makes sense.
So this gets a little bit more into like theoretical and a little bit more complicated, from my experience at least. There has been a time where I felt when I was younger, embarrassed for being feminine. I used to love the color pink. I used to like love wearing like very girly things. And it got to a point where, because of other people making fun of me, and girls, not like guys, just like girls, the internalized misogyny, okay?
Yes.
I rejected all of that. And that was during the time where like I used to hang out with a lot of like the boys and stuff. But after that, and we're in middle school, right? There was a lot of girl-on-girl hating. Either because you were too feminine or not feminine enough. Like, I was a nerdy person, and I've always kind of been, like happy and friendly and cheery. So a lot of the girls, like the popular girls, would view that as fake. And they literally did not like me. And like I said before, they never directly made me feel uncomfortable by like saying things to me or insulting me.
Like literally.
But the stares that I would get and how like you know when someone's talking about you when you cross by. Like that would happen all the time. Like I said before, they didn't do anything, but like I would antagonize them just because they were your storybook popular girl without actually getting to know them. And I feel like internalized misogyny had a lot to do with that. Because later on, actually, in high school, I talked to one of them. And mind you, this one I didn't have an issue with, but I still kind of antagonized her. And she was pretty nice. It just made me think, like, wow, it goes both ways.
If I may ask, what is internalized misogyny? Like, this isn't me just being like a shithead.
I think let's start with what's misogyny first.
It's like hatred or like prejudice against women or something.
Yeah. And so internalized misogyny is like when someone's constantly looking down at you for being a girl. The term girl becomes an insult. Acting very feminine is antagonized. And so when little girls start associating femininity with weakness and negativity, they start rejecting it. And that's where
becoming like the misogynists themselves.
Yeah. And that's where the whole I'm not like other girls comes in. That whole quote that's basically used when girls want to look down upon other girls for being feminine or liking feminine things. So that's kind of that internalized misogyny.
It just stems from the fact that like so many years of like women being like oppressed in any sort of sense has like created a reverse psychology where like the women decide to like oppress and like further ideas of womanhood and like femininity in order to like escape that prejudice themselves.
Yeah.
I have a confession.
Oh no.
What?
So
What's up?
in middle school, the way it was is either you bullied or you got bullied.
Peter would agree with you.
I'm sorry, I was definitely the group that did the bullying, and I had a blast. And like honestly, like we didn't bully like the whole time, but like like at least 20% of recess was like just strengthening social bonds by just being mean to one person.
Oh no.
I'm sorry, guys.
No.
I have failed you.
I'm glad we have someone to talk about that experience, though.
I'm actually really good friends with the person we used to bully. I remember I told him like a few years ago, I was like, hey, like all that stuff that happened, like I'm real sorry. He's like, honestly, I don't really care. I'm like, yeah, well, I do, and I feel bad. He's like, okay, I can apology. I'm like, cool, and that's it. So we're friends now. He's cool.
Were you ever bullied first at one point that made you kind of grow thick skin to like become a bully yourself so that people didn't walk all over you?
No, it's because I was like physically bigger than most people, so I was like, alright, cool, like I can have my way. But I've only ever had like one experience with bullying, and that was like, that really like, made me become a lot more empathetic. Like, maybe, like by that point I wasn't like a mean person. I wouldn't go out of my way to bully someone, but like that experience I was like, maybe I shouldn't like ever do that because it's pretty hurtful. I'll see y'all. Y'all have a good
Alright then, bye B.
B's experience is a little bit different, but a lot of the times the person being bullied it later becomes the bully. And then that perpetuates like the cycle. Some of the kids that get bullied obviously later develop psychological issues because I mean that a lot of those experiences are very traumatic. That's why sometimes like I feel for bullies as well, because it's not like people want to be, pardon my French, but buttholes on purpose. I assume it comes from something. If they're having issues at home, right, and they can't really let all of that negative energy out, they can let it out on other people. Yeah.
That's a really good point to make. At least in my view, I don't really think there's inherently troubled kids. I think it's all very environmental.
And in particular for like us at least, we come from an area that has a lot of like low income individuals, and the further down the income bracket you are, there tends to be a lot more issues with mental illness and issues at home, which can also play a part in becoming a bully at one point.
Yeah. The lack of services given to these people. Like, the counseling is, like, pretty bad. And, like, I feel like they don't take the time to understand where the bullies are coming from. And they just, they give them detention and then on to the next kid,
Yeah. It's always punishment and never actively working to fix the issue. That's why I think having counselors that are good at their job, and enough counselors, is very important in trying to solve the problem, because they really do make a difference.
Like if we look at it for our high school, we can say, for example, how they have like that mental health kind of like clinic. It brings into question like what are kids who who are in need of like mental health services or counselor services, like how exactly they're supposed to get that. If especially in these underfunded communities that maybe they can't really do or rely on online work, how do they get the help that they need it?
Thank you for watching.
Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe.
Just do it right now, cowards. Put that little tiny ass mouse cursor over that thumbs up button and click it one time. No more, no less. Alright? And while you're down there, why don't you also press that little red subscribe button, because I know it's not grayed out. And also, why don't you hit that notification bell for all notifications, because YouTube's kind of fucking up lately. But yeah, that would really help us out and hopefully get us monetized sometime soon. Ha 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 ha.